Welcome to another episode of A Working Relationship. We're Muna and Manel, psychotherapists and coaches by day, K-drama enthusiasts by night. If you love K-dramas and have ever wondered why work can stir up so much anxiety, pressure, and self-doubt, you're in the right place. Join us as we explore the healing, heartfelt, emotional, bittersweet, quirky, gritty, and swoon-worthy stories that reveal what it means to work, love, struggle, heal, and feel more connected to yourself. So let's dive straight into it. Today we are breaking down the massive new Netflix hit that has been sitting at the top of everyone's watch list this month, June 2026, Teach You a Lesson. Now, if you want to understand the true core of this show, you have to look at its native Korean title, which is Chum Gyuyuk. On paper, the literal translation means true education. But in modern Korean slang, it has a massive double meaning. Culturally, Chum Gyuyuk is used to describe giving someone a severe reality check, putting a bully or an arrogant person firmly in their place, or essentially teaching someone a lesson through a harsh, satisfying dose of poetic justice. And that double meaning perfectly sets up the premise. The series takes place in a fictional reality where the school system has completely collapsed due to extreme bullying and corruption, forcing a special government unit called the Educational Rights Protection Bureau to step in. They are tasked with bringing true education back to the schools, but they do it by literally teaching a lesson to the perpetrators using some pretty intense, no-nonsense vigilante methods. Behind the camera, this project reunites an absolute powerhouse team. It's directed by Hong Chong-chen, who you'll definitely know if you watch The Incredible Juvenile Justice, Dear My Friends, or Her Private Life, which was really fun. I believe it's originally a webcomic, and the script was written by Nam-kyu, the brilliant mind behind such acclaimed, deeply emotional, and witty shows like The Light in Your Eyes, Behind Your Touch, and The Daily Dose of Sunshine. As for the cast bringing this intense dynamic to life, we have a phenomenal lineup. Kim Moo-yul, who is the star of the show, and his name in the show is Na Jin, and Lee Sang-min, Jin Ki-ju, and Pyu Ji-hoon. Given what we do here on A Working Relationship, looking at the toxic dynamics, institutional power structures, and intense psychological warfare in these classrooms is going to give us so much to talk about. So let's unpack. Okay, Manal, I've said a lot, and I know you're the one actually who recommended me to watch Teach You a Lesson. You were on it from the beginning.
I did. I love this show so much. So many lessons that we took away from this drama that I'm hoping we get to explore a little bit more deeply in this episode today. But wow, maybe one of my favorite shows this year? I don't know.
You know what I really love about Na Chen is that
Yeah.
he was such a mirror to what we need in culture today, right? Because we need a true education in so many different ways. And he
Yeah.
was really firmly about being on the side of the victims, the side of justice. And he showed us that you can have the courage to change what's around you and really show up for the people around you and show up for yourself, most importantly. Because you will see when
Yes.
we discuss each lesson what the true education that we need in today's world.
Yeah, he's a true hero, isn't he? I feel like it's like he's somebody we all wish that we had on our side, or he's unforgettable. And I think he's so clear about what's right and what's wrong, and like he speaks what's like even in his lessons, the way that he speaks, he doesn't say much. He's not lecturing the students or the parents or the teachers. He's just kind of like very honest and direct, and I think everything just lands into your heart, right? And there's a shift sometimes. Sometimes there isn't, but at the end of the day, what he says is the truth.
This is actually the first time I see the work of Kim Moo-yul, and now I'm a true fan. He is so incredible. Even his life story is incredible. The way he was working as a young man to support his family. I think as it started back in high school, where he needed to support his family because his father was sick. And just a side thing about him that is such a wonderful, inspiring personality. So we're gonna pick 5 episodes that we will deep dive into, and we're gonna be starting with episode 2. So Hwajin teams up with an unassuming tech wizard. His name is Bong Gonde. Using aggressive special ops tactical responses, they systemically dismantle a ruthless school gang to rescue a vulnerable student who just wants a safe, normal environment to study. When I watched this episode, I remember feeling so protective of the young kid who was being bullied. He comes from a single mom household, and he was so kind to his mom and everyone around him, to be honest.
And even like he was protective of Bong Gundae, who was,
Mhm.
he was coming in undercover, pretending he was a student, and he just right away took him under his wing and was trying to like guide him even away from the school because he knew how challenging the school was. So yeah, he was such a wonderful character, so kind-hearted, wasn't he?
So, yes, he was a breath of fresh air. You don't really see a lot of people these days who really go out of their way to show care and show kindness and show up
Yeah,
for someone else. And I thought he was going to grow up into such an amazing adult. And
me
his mom does
too.
such a good job. Yeah, such a good job raising
Yeah.
him.
He's so resilient. Because like, he's going in basically into a war zone every single day. But he's like fighting for his education and his right to learn, and his future is really important to him. So I thought that was also really inspiring.
I agree. When we think of technical schools, maybe sometimes they do get underfunded, which is so unfair because some of those kids, maybe they're not thriving in the academic world, but they have such an interest in so many different ways and so many different things. And we should have funding for something like this where people can be creative and use their mind fully and really be in a place that nurtures that side of them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different careers. So, not everybody wants to go to university. Not everybody, wants an office job. There's so many different ways. And I think a lot of the times students feel pigeonholed, or they think that they have to choose one specific thing. But this shows us, like he had this interest in mechanics, in cars, in learning about that. And he would learn on his own. I really admired how he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he found the way to do it.
And even the student Kim Hyung-chu, when he invited Bongkon Dae to his house and he was making ramen for him, and although he did not come from a lot of means, and you can see that financially he's not from a well-to-do family, but he was so generous, inviting him over to share food. And even when his mom came back from work and putting the newspaper in her shoes that so it takes away
Yeah.
the moisture, I thought,
Yeah.
wow, this kid, and he's not a real kid, but if there's a kid out there, I would be rooting for them and their success.
That is so true. And like he has such a beautiful spirit.
So in this episode, the true education, at least we think, is that we need the active, non-negotiable restoration of a safe learning environment.
Yeah, and when I think about the student, Mona, it's like he's constantly having to be in fight and flight response, constantly having to be hyper vigilant because there is like a real threat in the school every single day. And then at some point, Hua Jin asked him this really important question, and he asked him like, "Are you okay?" Right? And somebody who's used to over functioning, who's used to, constantly, being hyper vigilant, looking like just making sure that he's taking care of himself, his environment, his family, his friends, and he's being asked like, "Are you okay?" And his response is like, "Yeah, kinchana, right? Everything's okay. I'm fine." But when Huajin asked him again, "Really, are you okay?" He just broke down. And we could see like everything that he was holding on just like melting away because he was holding on to a lot. And he was finally able to like release that, which was um it was such a moving moment, a moving scene that really just like really touched us, right?
That was such an amazing moment. And thank you so much for bringing that because It's true. Ask somebody once, "Are you okay?" They're gonna say, "Yeah, yeah, I'm okay." Ask them twice, they might stop and actually pause and tell you exactly how they're feeling. And I'm so glad that he asked a second time when he says, "Chinsha kinchana?"
Yeah.
So with that, it really showed how much he was holding, like you said. And really, a question that I would love to ask to the audience: are you okay? Really,
Yeah.
right? Chinsha Kanchana, are you really okay? We would love to hear about your experience. If you're experiencing something like this at work and you're feeling like you're holding up so much and you're so hyper vigilant and you're like, I don't know what's going on with me and how I can escape this or have a new life or whatever it is, just know it is so possible for you to have that. And we're on your side. We want you to have a good life.
It's also that, you deserve it. So Hwajin and his team just came for this one student, which really shows you that every life is precious and deserves safety, deserves happiness, right? So I thought that it was sending this really important message, like you deserve care, you deserve happiness, you deserve safety, you deserve ease in your life. This is not something that should only be given to a section of society. It's like the person who takes care of everybody else, they also need to be taken care of. They also need that space to, to feel that they can also say, hey, I am not okay. Hey, I need help.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I think a lot of listeners, it would resonate with them and really find your words to be supportive. Okay, Manal, so a lot of people online are talking about the third episode, the influencer episode, right? So I'll just give a little recap of what it was. A popular teen influencer weaponizes her massive online following to spread malicious, completely fabricated claims about her teachers, entirely destroying their professional authority and psychological well being. When I first watched this episode, I was so upset with the high school students who had 600,000 followers on Instagram. And she's always live streaming. She's always recording herself and what she's doing. And she doesn't have any respect for the classroom. And she even got a lot of the girls, maybe most of the girls in the class, to support it. She always carried with her that she's a victim of some sort, right? So one of the things that she did was accuse a teacher of sexual assault when it was completely untrue, and unfortunately the teacher ended their life. So the other teachers were really afraid of saying anything because the power of the masses was in the palm of her hand.
Wow, no student should have that much followers and that much power. And this was a really good teacher, right? Like, she seemed to be somebody who was obviously very liked by her students. And so for her to kind of lose her courage or her voice, like you said, also affected the students who looked up to her and who admired her and who respected her so much.
And that's why the letter from the students to give her courage to really come back and teach how she used to was so touching because they recognize the difference from when she was herself authentically, really teaching them, showing them how much she cares and how fun she made the class and how present she was. They can see that she's not present. She's been traumatized by the action of the influencer, and she was not able to be herself. Even she was being doxxed, I believe. That's another thing. A world we live in where people can just dox anyone and really put a narrative out there about how someone is abusive, and then the masses just believing anything that somebody would say without having some backing. Of course, not all of us, but a good chunk of people are just taking things as face value and not doing their research, not really slowing down when they send in comments because they don't know how much these comments can hurt and they don't know
Yeah.
how it could affect somebody and how it can affect somebody's mental health. Imagine how it would feel if you have, hundreds, maybe dozens, maybe thousands of the same message telling you that you're horrible or do something
Yeah.
horrible to yourself. It's not okay. And
Yeah.
this is
So
one of the
reactive.
things, very reactive. We live in a very reactive society today.
Something that caught my attention too is, how quick those people online were to like judge that teacher without really knowing the truth, without knowing exactly what happened. It shows a dysregulated nervous system that clouds our perception.
It's true. The narrative that is so quick to really take affect everywhere and just like it's really spread around, and having a whole story that has no truth or basis to it and actually ruins lives. A lot of people have lost jobs or lost their reputation or lost a sense of who they are because they have been targeted online, unfortunately. And because of what? Because of someone spreading a really terrible narrative about them. And I would wonder, and I would ask the audience, what is a narrative that you have believed about yourself? Look inwards and think about what is that narrative that maybe I believe about myself that isn't actually true because other people are saying something about you. How much have you now believed it about yourself? And how much
Yeah.
has it really taken so much from you? And I'm so glad that the students wrote in were so amazing. Such wonderful kids that actually really cared about their teacher and their education and reached out for help. So it really teaches us so much. Episode 5 might be one of the most intense in this drama, and it's about an elementary school teacher's passion and spirit that are completely crushed under the weight of relentless, malicious, and abusive complaints from a hyper controlling and toxic mother. So Hua-jin, he steps in as the substitute teacher, which was really cute when he was wearing pink and with his glasses. And he came in to handle the parents and structurally turn the tables around. So one of the most amazing performances by all people involved. The sweet, kind teacher who, she made the home of the heart for Uchin, the child who's involved in the story, and how much she cared and how excited she was about teaching the kids. She loved her job, and all of a sudden, it all takes a really bad turn because of one parent. Hey, may I pause you for just a moment? If you've been enjoying these conversations on our podcast, I think you're going to love something we've created behind the scenes. We're really excited to share our free ebook called 48 Actionable K-Drama Lessons That Can Change Your Life. Created by us, two therapists who've watched hundreds of K-dramas to help you build a healthier relationship with work, deepen your relationships, and create a more meaningful life. Inside, we take 48 unforgettable K-drama scenes and unpack the psychology, the nervous system patterns, the relationship dynamics, the work anxiety, the people-pleasing, the perfectionism, the burnout, and most importantly, what you can actually do with those insights in your own life. Each lesson ends with practical reflections and exercises, so you're not just inspired for 5 minutes, you actually begin changing your life. We also include 12 behind-the-screen stories of the actors, actresses, and writers behind these dramas, like writers of My Mister and The Glory, and actresses Song Hye-kyu, Kim Ji-won, Kim Tae-ri, and many others. Our hope is that by the time you finish it, you won't just see K-dramas differently, you'll start seeing yourself differently. To download your free copy today, please click the link in the bio or the description. And now, let's get back to today's episode.
Oh, I felt so bad for the teacher because she was a great teacher. The teacher's boundaries just kept being crossed over and over and over. And, so this mother had clearly had a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. She's responsible for how she's feeling. But what she does is she puts that fear and that anxiety on the teacher to soothe her own anxiety. But the way that she was going about it just crossed so many lines.
When you
Yeah.
said that, which that she crossed so many lines, I remember when she said that she's a mother and she only cares about her child because Noh
Yeah.
Hwa-jin said, the teacher is someone's child and you're treating her in this
Yeah.
way. And she's like, I only care about my child, and every mom is like that.
I mean, is that really true? But also, like, what is she teaching that child, right? That it's like it's all, just look after yourself. Don't care about anybody else. And I remember Hwajin asking him, like, asking her, is this the kind of child that you want to raise into this world? Like somebody who doesn't care about other people, who tramples over other people's rights? She wasn't thinking. She was lost in her own motives and just like to a point where she's trying to make everything perfect for her son. And, how can somebody learn, right? She doesn't want any mistakes. She doesn't want him to go through any pain or any suffering. But how are you going to raise a resilient child who will be able to face the world? Because it's not like that out there.
I know. And honestly, with how the child Ujin was with the teacher at the end. And it was so sweet. I cried when he said, I'm so sorry for what my mom is doing. And he's like, what, 5 years old? He was so young. And he understood that his mother was being abusive. And he understood that his teacher was doing an amazing job and she's a wonderful teacher. And he really cherished that. He just wanted to play with the teacher and spend time with her. And a really big message from Nahwa Jin is when he asked the mom, is like, can you trust your child and see like he really likes this teacher? Can you believe what he's saying? And that was the moment that maybe it clicked for her. We don't know what would happen next. It seemed like it did. But I
Yeah.
just love that moment of realization. Like sometimes parents will speak for a kid or feel for a kid, and it's not like it's true. It's just they're putting those feelings on their child. Like everything the mom said, like, oh, he doesn't like this and he doesn't like that and he's scared of this or whatever, all these things, it was obviously all not true. It was just her perception because she came in from that lens of anxiety that you were talking about.
In her lens, right, she's doing everything to protect her child. But what we actually see is that the child never felt protected by the mom. If anything, he felt invisible. And he felt like the mom didn't love him because she didn't see him. She was seeing everything else. She was seeing all the possible, like she was all about worst case scenario, looking to the future, but the present. She had this beautiful son who's so lovable and so playful, but she missed that opportunity to really connect with him because she was really way into the future, right? Not really being present, not really seeing that, not, as you said, trusting that he can handle it. Like, even though he's a child, but children are much more resilient and wiser than we give them credit for.
That's the true education from this episode, is that boundaries, we need to enforce them. We need to respect them. It was from the mother to her own child, the mother to the teacher, and the one who wrote in on behalf of the teacher was her own mother. Her own mother saw the changes in the
Oh,
teacher and
yeah.
how much she was suffering, and she even had facial paralysis by the end, and she really wanted her child to come back and really enjoy teaching. One of the craziest things was just seeing the amount of messages, the amount of calls. So Nahwajin was amazing in giving that dose back to the mom. That was so cool. Then she
That
woke
was
up,
so much
right?
fun. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And I really want to add, because you said something really important about the boundaries between a mother and a child. Because I don't actually think that a lot of people think that children also have boundaries.
I really believe in that. Kids do deserve boundaries. What's going to happen is that when a child like this grows up, they're not going to understand that they have rights. They're going to be pushed over to whatever corner. They're going to maybe become people pleasers, and they're not going to stand up for themselves or even feel like they have a rights or self-worth or deserve things, even though that's what the mom wanted for the child, is that she wanted to give him the world, but really doing it in all the wrong ways.
Absolutely. Like a child who feels invisible, not having those healthy boundaries needed. I can imagine that that child becomes really small, feels like their needs don't matter, feels like that they don't matter. So, and then the teacher, as you said, creating that home of the heart is showing him, hey, you have space, like your emotions matter, your feelings matter, your dreams matter, like your voice matters. So she was creating an environment for him where he can discover himself.
That's right. And really to listen to his heart. So, home of the heart,
Yeah.
she knew he'll not understand his emotions if he is only being raised by his mom and not having a teacher that actually recognizes there is a problem at home. I'm going to do my best to have this child really grow up to be an adult who understands their emotions, listens to their heart, and really feel
Yes.
like they're
Yeah.
deserving of their own voice. And this was an amazing episode, but the next episode we'll talk about is also about a mom who doesn't have boundaries, but there's a little bit more extra with that as well. A hyper-stressed pre-med student physically collapses in class. Hwa Jin uncovers a fiercely obsessive, hyper-controlling mom who gives him prescription smart pills and heart medication so he can perform better in order for him to enter medical school. Once again, I was so upset with another character, another mom who did not care about what their child is thinking about, what they're feeling, what they need. And it ended up with a child who was addicted to these
Mm.
drugs and just, if anything, he didn't really have a choice to please his mom or not. She was just like a warden. She would sit outside of his bedroom that didn't have a door, so no right to privacy. And for him to study all the time, sleep only what a few hours a night, waking up 4 a.m. just to study some more, and actually never wanting to be a doctor.
This episode was so hard to watch because this mother was like convinced in her head that she was making all the sacrifices, that she was doing all of this, for her son. But really, it was very selfish. She was doing it for herself. Maybe she had these unfulfilled dreams or expectation. Maybe she wanted to like level up in society, have a higher status through her son. But it was not for him at all. The person who was sacrificing all along was the son. He lost his childhood.
At one point, what was really, really, really striking is when he came home, he skipped the hagwon and he came home wet, and she didn't even ask him why he was wet. And unfortunately, just earlier that night, he was going to take his own life. Instead of his mom asking him, "What's going on? Why are you wet?" She made him feel guilty, slammed the door in his face, basically saying, "I can't believe you skipped one day of the hagwon." Even at the start of the episode, when he found out the mark for one of the exams that he wrote, and obviously he was sick because of the medication that she gave him, she was really upset with him, and she remembers how sick he was. He was in the nurse's office. She still didn't care and guilt tripped him. Like, this young man, if it'll be a miracle that he doesn't have so much guilt as an adult going into the world, just having that lens to operate from, guilt and shame, because that's what his mom really instilled within him. And it was amazing when the team really riled up around him and had him believe that there is a world out there that he can experience. There are so many things that he can do in life. He doesn't want to be a doctor. He doesn't have to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And that was really empowering for him.
It sounded like Bongonde actually really connected with this student. You kind of feel like maybe there's a shared story between them. And I really like, it seemed like he really understood, he really got him. And the way that they kind of, because they were asking him, what do you like to do? Like, probably that's the first time that this student was asked, what do you like? What do you want to do? And he didn't have an answer. And Bongonde was like, okay, that's okay. You can learn now, right? And so they went and they took him to read some children's books, and it was so beautiful to see him like rediscover, like actually maybe relive his childhood a little bit too. So that was really heartwarming, and for him to kind of finally make that decision for himself, for his well-being, right? When he took a stand to his mom, like, he found the courage after speaking with real adults who actually care about his well-being, who actually care about his safety. He found the courage in himself to speak to his mom and to actually tell her what it is that he needs. He found the courage to really stand up to his mom and not take that big test that he had to take and delay it for another year, no longer feeling the pressure that he has to go into medical school, that he's going to figure it out on his own.
And we think maybe the true education of this episode is nurturing an individual's unique identity, not treating them as an extension of yourself if you're a parent. Just knowing that one of the joys of life is really discovering yourself, knowing that you're here for a purpose and your life means something, and that there's something that will really make you happy to do once you really take the time to understand yourself and take chances and make mistakes and fail at things and succeed at things. These are the rights of every person on earth. So for every child out there that was forced to study something, there's so many people out there that have been forced to study something by their parent. Just know that this episode is dedicated to you because you really deserve that. You did everything you could to keep yourself sane in your environment, in your home, with your parents, when they pressured you, when you felt whatever they said did not resonate with your heart, when you went to exams, classes, after school stuff that you had to do to really make them happy, right? That was something that you wanted to do, perhaps. Or maybe you felt unsafe to say that you don't want to do this. There was no option in your household to say no, and you kept going. And maybe you went into that field and you feel like it's not the right career for you. Just know that we're thinking of you. Know that it's so powerful that you got this far, and you're more than capable of finding your way. Maybe you don't have to leave the job that you were forced into, but maybe finding things in your day that gives you that joy, rediscovering yourself, taking it step by step. Honor your spirit in these ways that nobody can take that away from you. You get to
Yeah.
do what you want to do now, even if it's not possible to leave the job that you were forced into, but you know what? You're able to do other things that give you so much other joy. Just take your time to rediscover them. It's within you. Everybody has something within their heart that really speaks to them.
I love that, Muna. And it's never too late. No matter like what stage you are in your life, it's really never too late to rediscover and to find what you truly love.
I want to repeat that, and that is okay. Take your time and know that the beauty of life is in the little things. It's not in our careers, it's actually in our everyday. I want to take up a new hobby. I want to visit some friends. I want to travel to a new country, whatever it is. Take your time to know what you love to do.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to unlearn that everything that you do has to lead to an output or like some kind of a goal. Sometimes you can just do things for fun that don't have to, you know, that don't have to produce any results.
Agreed. So the last episode is one where there's a high school student who's around a bunch of other students. You would think he's part of the popular group or something like that, and you're not thinking twice about what's going on. But then when you delve deeper into the episode, you understand that they're using him financially to get what they want. So they're buying things on his account, food delivery, buying games, things like that. And every month his mother has to pay exuberant amount of money for what these kids are doing. You know what was really sad about the episode is no matter how much this student told people, he said he told the police, he told his parents, he told the school, like he's been trying to tell people, nobody's believing in him. And this is one of the things that really struck me because I was like, oh, you know what? This is the dynamic of a narcissist and a victim, where someone is truly infiltrating everything in your life where nobody's going to end up believing in you. He's been so gaslit to the point where he just stayed quiet and just takes it because it'll just get worse for him.
Later in the episode, we kind of see that this bully actually knows how to exploit people. Like this is something that he is very well versed in, and so he brought the student in close, right? Somebody who maybe like needed a friend or needed that connection. So he thought that they were really truly his friends. And you know what was different about this episode is that it wasn't physical abuse; it was this emotional and psychological abuse. Um, which is sometimes harder to recognize.
This is the type of abuse that is really hard to prove. And this kid, the bully, was really was really strategic about it. He knew what he was doing. He's incredibly smart. Imagine he took those skills and actually applied it into his life where he's doing something productive, something that helps people. But unfortunately, he used it to humiliate, to take from, to abuse someone else. And you know what's so interesting is that Nahwajin and the team had to recreate everything to actually have that proof because the student could not prove it in front of the violence committee. The student who was bullied thankfully was believed by everybody and he was able to overcome this.
Yeah, it was so healing when, he was sitting in the staircase all alone because, he's tried so many times to speak up, to tell people what's going on. Nobody's believing him. And so he's now at a point where it's like he's crying to himself, like holding back tears and holding back the pain. And Hwajin comes, sits beside him, and finally, it's what a healing moment, like to have an adult to finally sit down and to actually ask him, to tell him, hey, what's going on? Tell me. And when he finally tells him, and Hwajin tells him, I believe you. And that's what he really needed to hear from an adult in his life. I believe you. Even though we can't see the scars maybe, but they're there. And I believe the hurt and the pain that you've endured, that you've suffered. It was so touching to finally see him being believed for the first time and to realize that it is not all in his head.
That is so true. That was so, so incredibly important for him. I can't even imagine if he went on with this bullying going on. I can't even imagine what would have happened if Nahwajin and the team did not step in. What would happen to him in the environment of university and going to school, and how he's carrying this trauma because it was all psychological. The closest people in his life believed, not even his mother believed him. It was such an amazing moment of reckoning at the end that healed all of us. We wanted him to be believed, and we got what we wanted. And the true education in this episode might be just the creation of that environment that actively values people, that actively calls out passive aggressive behavior and exploitive group dynamics. So when we're in environments, it could be school, it could be work, it could be anywhere in the world, even at home. If there's something that feels like manipulative, exploitive, doesn't feel right, we have to find a way to help who's there. We have to find a way to help ourselves if we can. And we have to find a way in society to really stand firmly with the victims who do go through such coercive behavior, such manipulative behavior, where there is not a physical proof out there, but we know something isn't right. And we just need to look closely into it and support whoever is going through that. So, Manal, this brings us to the end of the episode. It was so much fun to talk about. And Nahwachin, thank you for doing an amazing job bringing justice to the schools and really to the world.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of A Working Relationship. Join our email list to stay connected, to find out when we're going to go live, and to become a part of our community. If this episode resonated with you today, we'd love to hear from you. Check the links in the show notes, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.